What's good, everybody? My name is Jack Dawkins. Welcome to season 4 of Stage Dive. For those of you who've been listening, you know that the podcast traditionally has been about tips and tricks that make great performances on stage. How to prepare, how to rehearse, how to navigate an audience. But this season, I feel like we've leaned more into a new category, which is the origin story of all of these artists. How did each of these performers become the person, the performer, the artist that they are today? How did they go from zero to getting on stage? And how do they navigate all of the bumps and twists and turns that make the creative journey both beautiful and really challenging? I was blown away by all of our guests this season, and I really, really hope you enjoy this. My guest for today's episode is one of the most fun people I've ever had the privilege of speaking to. Today's guest is KiKi Maroon. She is a burlesque dancer, she is a performer, and she is someone who kicks ass and takes names. She is doing so many different things, not only for herself as an artist, but for people in the creative community by hosting shows, by paving ways, by giving back her information and her experience to the world. And we talk not only about her experience as a creative, but also some of her battles with drinking, depression, and really finding her identity as she's gone through all these different things. It really is just a joy to speak with her, so I hope you enjoy the conversation with KiKi. The first question that I have for you is, can you tell me about your chair?
My chair?
Mm-hmm.
So I also am a Twitch streamer. So this is my setup here. I have all of my props and things. You can't see this off to the side, but you know, I throw on a lot of costume pieces and things like that. So there's a lot of things that just trigger things that chat will say that will trigger little gags and different things. And so yeah, this is a gamer chair, but I put this fur cover on it because you know those those plasticky chairs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar with Twitch, but you know some of my streams will be 6, 7, 8 hours long, and you get stuck to the chair.
Yeah.
I know it's just like this. Just it's a little beep, but in my head it's like, oh god, I'm actually fusing. I'm fusing with this.
That sounds super uncomfortable. When did you start streaming?
I started streaming in 2021, maybe.
Okay.
I wish I had started earlier. I wasn't familiar with Twitch for the start of lockdown. And then once I got into it, I was like, oh my God, it would have been so amazing to have this kind of community and interaction and daily a thing to look forward to. So I really wish that I'd had it early on, but it was towards the end of me quarantining, and I love it. I love it so much.
That's so awesome. I feel like I've heard very mixed experiences. I know some people really love it and they build community and they feel super connected. And I know some people feel like they're just talking into the internet for like 7 hours and it's like very disjointed and very strange. So like, what do you think has helped you to kind of cultivate what sounds like a group of human beings that you feel supported by and connected to?
Well, I'm very lucky in that I do have a wonderful community, and they're very, very supportive. I talk to them a lot. I mean, mostly about my productions. You know, oh my God, I did this open mic last night. You'll never guess what happened. This person heckled me. You know, building the circuses and stuff that I do, and so they're very excited that they want to hear about all of that stuff. And so that's wonderful because I can talk about my live stuff all day. But before I got back into doing live stuff, I was really confused. I'm like, what am I doing here? Like you said, I'm just talking to nothing.
Right.
But it was a weird time. I don't know if you're familiar. It was a very weird time.
Yep.
And so to have an excuse to just stream of consciousness, but out loud.
Sure.
And maybe nobody will comment. Maybe nobody's in the room. But I'm like, yeah, stuff's been really hard. I don't really know what's going on. Wait, did I eat lunch today? Yeah, anyways, so I talked to my mom today, and it was actually, I feel like if you have like ADHD, you're a great streamer. You're a great streamer because you can just keep on going and going and going and going, and then pull up. That reminds me of that one time I saw this thing about how to. I'm hungry. I should eat spaghetti. How do they even make spaghetti? Let me Google. How do you make spaghetti? No, I can't do that. But you know what? And you can just keep going forever. And I feel like if you don't have that crazy of just the endless train of thought, then it's difficult because you don't know what to say next. But if you do, it's kind of almost, I don't want to say therapy because that's a bit extreme, but you know, what do they call it? Self-medicating.
Yep.
I feel like it's almost a self-medicating because I'm giving myself a place. Actually, maybe it's the opposite. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's the worst thing because it's feeding into this thing that I shouldn't do. I don't know.
It's probably both, right? Like,
Yeah.
because even if it is feeding into something or like a pattern or a habit that you're working to, managing, calming, whatever, like there's also something really beautiful about other people who likely have a similar experience, seeing
Mm-hmm.
someone else and connecting to like, okay, I'm not the only one whose brain is in like 7 different places. I'm not the only one who Googles shit all
Yeah.
day just because the question comes up. I'm not the only one, et cetera, et cetera. Like,
Yeah, exactly. And I have quite a few people in my chat that have talked about, you know, I think we all do this right now. This is just the world that we're in, where they will have Netflix on and something on their laptop and they're scrolling on their phone at the same time because we're just, you know, constantly bombarded with this stuff. So we want more and more and more. And I'm quite proud to say I've had many people in my chat say, you're one of the only people that I can watch just you because I'm doing that for them.
right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's why so much streaming is picture in picture, right? Like it's usually
Mm-hmm.
someone playing a video game with music playing over it and then they're chatting in the frame, right? It's like
Yeah.
so what you can kind of be within the space, but depending on where your brain wants to pay attention,
Yes.
you can easily kind of navigate between it's not
Absolutely.
tasks, but focus points.
Yeah, yeah, and I really, you know, coming from the world of live entertainment, I'm constantly wanting to do more. And so that is one of my big goals is they call it IRL streaming, like in real life, is to get set up. There's like a very expensive backpack thing that you can buy that has, you know, the Wi-Fi thing and all that and the camera set up
Yep.
so you have connection anywhere you go. And so my dream is to get the circus up and going, you know, or tour as a soloist and to be able to just take my chat everywhere and stream and be like, oh my God, yeah, we're walking around. I'm in New York today. I'm in Chicago today. I'm in, I don't know, Australia. I did that once. It was great. And so like I really want to be able to do that and do actual like full events. It's actually becoming really a trend within the Twitch culture where there's different content creators that are now also doing big live events and renting out venues and having different streamers come out and do
Mm,
things. And I really, really want to be able to just bring those two worlds together.
yeah. Amazing. Like how do you think about balancing energy among like all the stuff you have going on?
I think that's a wonderful thing to strive for.
Yeah.
I think that's what we all hope to get to. I'm only recently getting to the point where I realized that it is not admirable to be worn thin at all times.
Mm,
I so just for a little bit of background information, I originally I'm from Texas, and pre-pandemic I had a big circus in Houston, but I also did a smaller regular show as a residency, multi-city residency in Houston and Dallas. That was a burlesque stand-up comedy, like a vaudeville variety type show.
cool.
So I was just constantly working, and I had, you know, a whole crew. I had my light guy, my sound guy, my stage manager, multiple showgirls. I had clowns, you know, all these people that were all part of my team and chosen family. And I loved it. I loved it and I missed it. And
Mm,
also, I was constantly just spread so thin. You know, I
right.
also originally got into performance because I was a costume designer. So I personally made all the costumes for all of the showgirls. You know, I think over a course of 2 years, made something like 17 custom showgirl costumes because every time we got a new person, we had to switch things out and everything. I made the costumes, I did the scripts, I did all kinds of stuff on top of my solo work. And so then, you know, COVID happened. Suddenly, I only had me living
Right.
in my house by myself, and that was really hard.
Mm,
But it was also the first time that I focused on myself. and I had I could not focus on other people, and I'd never been in that position. And so I only, I made costumes for myself. I wrote a lot of things. I got into Twitch, and it was the first time I did these things for myself. And I was like, oh my God, if I focus all of my energy into one project, the project of me, oh shit, like stuff grows really fast, and the level of quality was so high. So then when we, started coming out of things, shows are happening again, I'm performing again. I ended up moving across the country to Vegas and now LA. I was like, I'm going to focus on me. I'm my priority. I learned my lesson, and I did. But I was still wearing myself thin because I personally would have 20 projects going at any given time.
Right.
Because I didn't know a different way to be. I'm like, I should feel exhausted all day, every day. I'm just doing it for myself now, so it's healthy.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's literally like 2 months ago, I was like, wait a minute. I can do one project.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still doing like 4, but that's still not 20.
For sure. Yeah.
And so, I'm still figuring it out.
We all are, right? We all are. I think like my experience of it is remembering that like things have seasons. And so sometimes like I'll be in a season and I'll be doing something, it'll be going really, really well. And then something else will bubble up. I'll get excited about it. My attention will divert and I'll look back and be like, oh no, I'm doing this worse. Or I'm not giving this the love that it was getting. It's like, well, right. Like, because you can't continue to sustain that level of this effort and have new things come into your life. And like part of the joy of being an artist is newness. It's how you grow as an artist. It's how you connect to new people. It's how you evolve your art form, right? And so like by definition, we have to let some things sunset, even if only temporarily, and be left. And like I am learning to not see that as like neglect. Because what it normally feels is like I'm neglecting my live show, or I'm neglecting my content, I'm neglecting this part. It's like, no, like I'm putting my energy towards something that is more available, that is more exciting, that is capturing my life force right now. And I will circle back to these other things or not. I will determine if there's room for them in the umbrella or not.
Yeah. No, exactly. I like that. I'm going to think about it that way. I like the idea of seasons. That's again something that I just recently had to learn, is that I'm not giving up something.
Yes.
For the longest time, I was like, no, but like this is what I do about all of the things. And so if I did not actively pursue a project, to whatever arbitrary completion I decided it needed to have, then I felt like I was giving up on it. That I was, basically I was a loser. Because I had this great thing and I could have done it. And I know I can do it, but I'm choosing not to do it. Why would I choose not to do something? And so, because I'm just very type A of like, I'm going to do everything the best I can. And I had to, I'm still working on it, on realizing like, it's not giving up. It's me saying, okay, later. Right now, this is not disappearing. Right. These other projects are not disappearing. These are all self-imposed timelines for no fucking reason. No reason at all. I'm sorry, can I cuss?
Oh my God, 1,000%.
Okay, just making sure. I know everybody's different.
No, yeah, fucks are welcome.
Okay.
Those you give and those you don't. You can say as many as you like. I'm curious because like you mentioned that you briefly went to Vegas, then went to LA. Something that comes up a lot is either, how did you end up where you are, or how do you think about, if you're in a big market, how do you feel about being in a big market that's really competitive? If you're in a small market, do you ever feel a desire to go to a bigger market? So I'm curious, like, why was the pit stop in Vegas so short? And then what drew you out to LA?
So, sorry, it's a long answer, and I'm trying to condense my everything.
No need.
So I came up in Houston. I love Houston. It gave me everything. That's where I wasn't one of those people that grew up, thinking like, I'm going to be a performer. I didn't go to theater school. I didn't do all of that stuff. I was incredibly shy. So shy. I always walked looking at the ground at my feet. I was not a open person at all. And so I never thought that was going to happen. I really stumbled into performing, and I thank Houston for that. You know, it's a lot of people don't get, because they hear Texas and they have an idea of what Texas is.
Right.
There's so much art in Houston. There's so much culture. It's like it's such a huge international city.
Yes.
And so I'm so lucky that I came up in a city where people could come up with any fucking idea. I had some friends who were like really into death metal, but then his wife was a vegan chef and into health. And so they were like, we should do this band where we all dress up like vegetables and sing about being a vegan, but like death metal asparagus.
Let's go.
And and it's just like, okay, what venue do you want to go? There's no, and then people just show they're just so supportive to anything you want to do. And so at the time, I got into burlesque because a friend of mine was doing this troupe, and she was like, do you want to do it? And I was like, I don't know how to dance. I don't know how to sing. I don't know how to be on stage. I have nothing. And she was like, well, we need another person. So and so I came up, I was like, well, I'll just be a stripping clown. That way I don't have to have rhythm. If I mess up, it's a part of the thing.
Right.
And I've always loved the circus. And at the time I did costume design. And that was my thing, is I really wanted to work for a circus. Working for Cirque du Soleil was like the dream.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll just be a stripping clown.
Can I pause you right there?
Of course.
How did you go from someone who looks at the ground and doesn't want to make eye contact with people to voluntarily saying, I'll be a stripping clown? Like, I feel like I missed something in there. Like, or maybe not, but like, that feels like something's missing.
No, but you're right. And also that's literally how it happened. But I think I loved the idea of it because of the costuming of burlesque. I had made costumes for burlesque performers. I thought it was so fun. It's just glitter and sparkles and feathers and all of that stuff. I thought it was so beautiful. But the idea of being that myself just seemed crazy. I couldn't see myself in that space. And so it was kind of like I was tricking myself. Where I was like, well, if I do it in this way that shows that I don't really care and I'm just a clown and I'm being dumb, then I can do it. Do you know? I lied to myself.
Yeah, you found an internal justification where you're like, I'm going to ignore the truth of my reality for the last however many years, and we're going to just try this new thing. Yep.
Yeah, and there's there's a literal mask. I didn't do a full white face clown, but I still did the big makeup and in the nose and everything, and so I was wearing a mask, and so it wasn't me. It was me. It was just this caricature of a person that could do that I was playing.
Super interesting. Okay, cool.
And so I did that, and it was awesome. And so I was producing, or I didn't know I was producing at the time. I was like, let's just throw a big party and I'll perform and I'll hire my friends. But I was producing these different circus burlesque events. And it was so supportive. The shows just consistently sold out. And I now that I work with so many other performers trying to do this, build these scenes in their cities and trying to guide them on how to do it, I know how lucky I am that I was in a supportive city that was just like, fuck yeah, okay, stripping clowns, let's do it, And so it gave me the opportunity to make a lot of mistakes but keep going.
Yes.
Anyways, fast forward. The shows kept growing and I kept growing, and I got to the point where I had this, huge annual circus and a residency with Live Nation, multiple cities. And it just went from this hodgepodge, just kind of bullshit that I was doing into my full-time career over the course of about 10 years of like this very polished, amazing thing. My shows consistently sold out. I had a really huge, very loyal following that would come to every single show, and it was amazing. And towards the end of 2019 was the first time I was able to quit being a bartender and barista and be a full-time, this is what I do. And then 2020 happened.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Sure did.
And it was hard. It was really, really hard. And I have dealt with a lot of mental health issues for my entire life. And so that, it was difficult for everybody, obviously, but there was this like, I was going crazy. I was not in a good space. And so I had to focus on something. And so I started focusing on, like I said, myself, but also this idea of when the shows finally come back, I am going to have the biggest, best comeback ever. We're going to have not just our regular circus, it's going to be the grandest circus you've ever seen. And we're going to take it on tour. It's going to go around the country. And excuse me, I'm going to, host it in this giant magical showgirl thing. And I had this idea for this huge finale that was going to blow everybody's mind with this giant prop, and it was going to be amazing. And so I had something to keep me going through that time. I had a reason to wake up because I was building this thing, and I don't know when it's going to come back, but it's going to come back because I ain't going to waste a comeback.
Right.
And then the more time passed, the more I realized that I wasn't going to grow if I stayed in Houston, because the reality is that I could have come back at the same level that I was at and that the shows were at, and it would have been amazing. It would have been great. And people would have come, and I would have felt that I, wasted, for lack of better words, the last 2 years because it just was the same. And I am very proud to say that, I not only had the largest burlesque production in the city, like I had multiple venues that I was the one producing at. In a lot of cities, it's like these people are here, this other troupe is here, this other producer is here. I did it at all of them, and I don't like to use the word competition, but basically I was my only competition, I was the one doing it. And I just was like, I want to grow.
Yeah.
I wanted to grow, and I wanted to do more. And I just felt that if I stayed in where I was comfortable, that I knew I was going to go back to the same thing. And I would have any lesson that I learned about taking care of myself and focusing on my work would have just flown out the window, because the second, all of these friends that I love so much, were in front of me, they don't even have to ask me. I would just be like, oh my God, this is so good. Do you want me to help you? Because that's what I do. And so I would have instantly been back in that same place of prioritizing everybody else's things above mine. And so I had to get the fuck out. So I went to Vegas because, it's the entertainment capital of the world. I'd wanted to move to LA. It was in my 5-year plan for many more than 5 years to get to LA.
Keep nudging it, but yeah, it's there.
Yeah, because I also do stand-up comedy, and it's like, well, LA, that's where you go for that. It's a huge scene out
there, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I kept pushing it back. And so when I started looking at apartments, I realized that for the cost of an efficiency apartment in LA, I could get a 3-bedroom house in Vegas.
Yeah.
And it's only a 4-hour drive. So I was like, okay, well, I'll move to Vegas and then do gigs in LA and go back and forth and have, a studio and a stream room for Twitch and a costume shop and all of this stuff. And then after about 6 months in Vegas, which was amazing, like I've made so many contacts there. I still am there every other weekend. Oh, wow. I consider myself living in both. But after about 6 months there, I had some health stuff come up and did not know, because in my head, Vegas is a huge city. It's fucking Vegas. It's not. Yeah. It's basically the Strip and then a bunch of suburbs, and the medical system network in Vegas is not good. And so, yeah, I was like, well, I don't have the specialist that I need to see just literally didn't exist there. And the way insurance works, you have to go, within your network and all that stuff. And I'm like, but they're not here. So what do I do? They're
so
like,
what the fuck do I do? Yeah.
You just die.
Yeah. Apparently, yeah. It was like, well, I guess I'll die now. This is the end.
Yeah. And so
Oh my God.
it's really unfortunate. I mean, again, I think I'm one of those people that believes everything happens for a reason. And so I ended up, picking up and going to LA the second my lease ended in Vegas. My bank account is not happy about, 1, 2, 3 moves in 2 years.
Yeah. I know that story.
But, I did what I had to do. And I'm very grateful for the way it all worked out, though, because I had a year to really learn so much about the Vegas scenes, the different art scenes, performance scenes, circus and burlesque and variety and magic and comedy and all these things, and really, make a lot of connections there and have the opportunity to perform there regularly. And then now I'm in LA, where I am doing the same with a lot of comedians and clowns, because there's a huge clown community in LA. I had no idea before moving out here it was such a huge deal. And so I really feel like I now, I feel so gluttonous, that I've gotten all of these things and I get to be a part of all of these communities.
Yeah.
KiKi Maroon, I'm a stand-up comic and burlesque dancer. I will take my clothes off. You just gotta laugh at my jokes first. It's like we're on a date. I'm from Texas. I moved to Vegas a few months ago, and while I miss Texas, the second my plane landed today, my body went, oh yeah, allergies. I forgot, and so now I'm currently dying in front of you. So there is a very real possibility that while I'm trying to be sexy and do my strip, that a snot bubble is going to come out of my face. That is the right reaction. If that happens, I do not want you to be grossed out and embarrass me. I want you to just focus on how it's another wet orifice. And I'm just not.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And how long have you been there?
It's a year now. It's
Okay.
exactly a year. Yeah.
Exactly a year. Okay.
Yeah,
super
just started
cool.
my lease again.
There we go.
Time to move.
Oh my God, no thank you. No thank you. I was the same. I moved 3 times in 2 years, and I might move again soon, which is like,
oh, again?
yeah. So the very brief history. So coming out of COVID, I was part of the statistic where marriages didn't last. And that's been a really beautiful experience that I'm super grateful for, but it meant I needed a new place to live. Yeah. So at the time we were in Chicago, I moved out of our house into a small apartment. I was there for 6 months. We moved as a family out to Colorado. My co-parent and daughter live in Denver. I'm up in Boulder. Okay. And so when I first got here, I didn't know the area at all. Yeah. So it's like, okay, when I get here, just let me find anything. I'll be there for a little bit and then kind of see where I'm at. Yeah. I did that and then was like, cool, Boulder's lovely, but this spot isn't it. So let me move again. So then moved in May of last year. And now my daughter is 5.5. She just started kindergarten and I'm only a 30-minute drive away. But sometimes I'll get a text of Saxon just drew this. She wants to show it to you. And I'm not there. And I'm like, nope. We've done the work so that Amelia, my co-parent, and I get along and I have an opportunity to be in her life. What the fuck am I doing not being in her life? No.
Yeah, so many people don't even have that. Yeah, absolutely.
Totally. And sorry, I don't want to make myself sound like a deadbeat dad. We have family dinner every week. We're doing great. And I want to be there more. And so as much as Boulder is lovely and the spot is lovely, I'm I got to be closer. So
yeah, that's a lot.
Move number 4 on the way. Here we go. So the good news is I'm so fucking good at it now. I know exactly what to do. I've curated all my shit. I've gotten rid of so much. Yeah. It's this is very easy.
I'm I don't need this. I thought I needed this. I don't need this. I don't need anything.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't need anything.
1,000%.
You know what? It also saves me money because anytime if I walk into a TJ Maxx because I need socks or something, before I'm look at this little statue, look at this pillow, whatever. I'm no, that's just a thing I have to put in a box later. No interest in anything.
Yep. 1,000%. Oh my God. I love hearing about the communities you're bubbling into and all the cool stuff that you have going on. I do want to return to a thread of that first time you're I'll be a stripping clown cool. And you stepped into like, okay, I'm not this person, but I'm going to fake it till I make it, right? Like I'm going to step into the identity of someone who would. I'm guessing after 10, 15 years of doing this, it's a lot more you who's the person. Me. It's all you, right?
It's
so
all
like,
me. Yeah.
Can you talk about, and I'm sure that it evolved over time, but were there moments along the way where you started to feel the shift from like, cool, I'm playing a person who's comfortable expressing their sexuality to no, this is me, this is my sexuality, and I'm loving portraying it on stage?
Yeah, it's not a very extreme story. Basically, I was a blackout, like a daily blackout drunk for a very long time. And so that was a big part of it, is that I could, take several shots before going on stage. And so there was, a lot of people, not even performance wise, just drinking wise, can be like, yeah, oh, it wasn't me, I was drunk. I've known quite a few people who even name their drunk persona, oh, that was Sarah, that wasn't me, because there's this idea of it's not my fault. Yeah. And I'm doing everything and wild and there's no inhibitions. And so it was that times two, because I had the drinking excuse and the character excuse.
Right.
And I just was a crazy person, but it was allowed. It was fun. It was kooky. I was getting paid for it. I was like, people like me. I went from, I didn't know how to make friends. I, like a lot of performers, was teased terribly in school. I was bullied. I didn't know how to do any of that. And so, I go on stage. I'm sure it helps that burlesque is taking your clothes off. Suddenly, so many friends. So many, I'm like, people like me, and bars would pay me to come in, give me an open tab, and just be a wild person. I'm dancing on bars, I'm pouring shots into people's mouths. I actually, my official title at one bar was the party catalyst. And so I would get paid to come in and make a scene.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have to have limitations. It was in my best interest to have no limitations. And it was really fun at first.
Yep.
But it's not sustainable. Yeah. And waking up hungover every single morning, wanting to die because, I'm drinking shot for shot, with, 250-pound comedian, dudes, like, I couldn't process the alcohol the same way. And I just wanted, every single day was waking up feeling like death and had to just rally and do it again the next day. And so that just kept going because I didn't want to lose what I had. I'd never had friends. I'd never felt popular. I had all this stuff. And then I flipped my truck in a ditch driving home drunk one night. And everything came crashing down. Yeah. I was course arrested. I was put on probation. I was not allowed into any facility that serves alcohol, which is like all of them.
All of them. Yep.
I was engaged at the time. That ended. To his credit, he really, really tried. He kept pushing or heavily suggesting that I go to therapy, which just I resented the idea that I needed any kind of help and that I needed to change in any way.
Sure.
And so that fell apart, which meant that I had to move. So I didn't have a place to live. Everything fell apart. And and also it's the best thing that ever happened to me. I had to really look at my life in a different way. And suddenly all of those people that I thought were my friends had no interest in speaking to me because I couldn't offer them anything. I wasn't any good to them anymore. And it was really, really hard.
Yeah.
And so, much like the COVID thing, because I'm a spiteful bitch. I was like, no, when I come back, you're gonna fucking see. You are going to regret this. And so I used that time. I decided that at the time I'd only done, these very small bar shows, not really a stage. You're just wandering through the crowd. It was very, very, grimy, dirty sideshow, getting stapled on your skin for money. Like I would get tased all the time. One of my favorite things was getting tased for $20. Oh no, it was grimy.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I was totally with you on like Houston's culture and it's different. It's like, but also people tased me and stapled me for money. Like, there's Texas.
Yeah, there you go.
There it is.
There you go.
I knew it was in there somewhere.
Give me a shot and a 20 and you can tase me.
Hey, sure.
I will say now I am, therapy, meditation, spirituality. I'm on a very deep healing journey. Yeah. Still love getting tased.
Oh my God. I'm so happy you said that. I'm so happy you said that. No. So like, there's a book for you, for anyone who I so recommend. It's called Existential Kink. And so much of what it's about is like, we have so many stories about what we're supposed to like and what we're not supposed to like. And the truth is like that perverse, like, ooh, I'm not supposed to like this, but that feels good, is one of the most like nourishing, wonderful feelings because it's your truth, right? It's like, I know that these people don't want me to like this. I know I'm not supposed to, but in here, like, ooh, yes. Yeah. And I feel like so much of life, so much of the path you're on is about discovering like, what is that compass? What is that inner knowing that I can follow as I make decisions? And we always think of it as like super enlightened and like, oh, it wants me to eat kale and fucking sleep 8 hours and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It also likes getting fucking spanked and it likes being tased and like, yes, right? Like, yes, like that's part of us too. And if we can actually just take the shame and not even move away from it, but like feel the shame, acknowledge that it's part of it and acknowledge that like part of us loves that shame when it isn't about I'm a bad person or this, but like it's just one of the emotions we process and move through. And so like I love that you said that, not because I hope that you're in pain or because I think that's like whatever, because some part of you fucking loves that. And like, yes, awesome. Yeah. I love that you love that. And I love that you can see like I am healthier and I still want that. But yes. So anyway, I'm gonna look into that. I love that. Yeah, that's been a really yes. Yes.
I had quit drinking. I quit drinking. It's now, that was 7.5, almost 8 years ago that I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And there are a lot of parts of my life that I am now able to reflect on and see where I overcorrected. And I needed to at the time.
For sure.
I needed these intense restrictions that I placed upon myself because I did not know how to regulate. I still am I live in the extremes. And people always say life is about balance. And I'm like, but both extremes is a form of balance, maybe. And so I, at the time, needed these restrictions. But then as I, really became self-aware and got deep into, why was I trying to escape? Because that's really what it came down to, is just trying to escape, feeling like I wasn't good enough. I myself, as I come, am not good enough. Let me be somebody else, literally be somebody else so that I am liked. And so to get to this point of really truly understanding that I am enough, it's been a long fucking journey, a long one. And, extending into COVID, this idea of like, oh no, I don't have my team. By that point I was like, no, I'm really healthy. I haven't drank in years. I'm doing all these things. I'm really more focused on my business than partying. but it was just another distraction of I'm focused on everybody else and this idea of I must come with this entire team in order to be enough. And so why did I start that? Oh, because of the existential kink thing. Yeah, that's something that I'm going to read that. I want to find out more about that because that's something that I am looking at. What did I cut out of my life because a healthy person, like you said, the eat the kale and the wake up in the all of these different things that a healthy person does, I tried it. But if I do it because I'm supposed to, it's not any different than doing this other thing that I thought I was supposed to do to get friends. It's the same shit because it's not being me and what my essence is and being true to that. And yeah, I want to get tased. It's fucking awesome. And it's not because of some, there's some deep childhood thing or whatever. It's I enjoy the anticipation. I enjoy the adrenaline spike. I enjoy. If I was doing it for the reason that it started of I want to be liked, that's a problem.
Agreed.
Is it happening because I truly enjoy it? Then let's go. And so I'm really looking at every aspect of my life in this way now, and unexpectedly, working with all of these clowns in LA, I've been taking several clowning workshops, and I started going to these workshops and working with these teachers and stuff because I wanted to be a better clown in my performance. I had no idea that it was actually going to be another kind of therapy where they really push you to understand, why do you feel ashamed? There's something stopping you from going all the way and committing all the way to whatever weird face or goofy moment or thing. You're holding yourself back, and you're the only one who can stop holding yourself back. So let's dig into what happened in your brain right now as you were going to go, but you didn't. What happened in your brain? And so I have to then be like, I mean, I wanted to, but then I didn't. And then, and suddenly I'm having flashbacks to middle school because I didn't even, things you don't even realize. It's all connected. Yes. Every moment of your life, every action that you take, every decision you make, they're all connected.
Yeah.
And you got to unravel it all if you want to really, if you want to make conscious choices instead of the automatic thing. If you just do the automatic, it's all based on the past.
Totally. Yeah, I so agree with that. The only thing I would say, and this is from like a chronic overthinker. So like I can spend eons in my head detangling and figuring out. Like I realized at some point in the last couple of years, like actually like you just need to accept that it's there. Like, and so many people are like, no, I want to understand. It's like, yeah. Great. It's so much easier to understand when you're not having it in the space of like, I judge it. I hate it. I want to get rid of it. If I can only untangle it, I don't have to think about it anymore. It's like, as soon as you do that, the knot just gets bigger. And as soon as you're like, hey, there's a knot. This isn't, ideal, or this isn't the way I want it to be, but it's here. I'm feeling it. It's real. Okay, cool. Like, when have I felt this before? Let me just be curious about that. Can I open myself up to that? Shit, middle school. I was in the play. I so remember I fucked up a line and someone else on stage looked at me and they were like, what are you doing? And I felt so horrible. And like, I just replay that now subconsciously anytime I make a mistake in public.
Yeah.
And like, okay, cool. That makes a ton of sense. Of course I would feel scared because when I did that before, someone made me feel awful and I don't want to feel awful. So, okay, cool. But like when we hold on to it with this like death grip of like, I'm going to fucking figure this out. And I have to know. And like, I'm going to go to therapy and I'm going to meditate. And I'm going to blah, 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 blah. It's like, where's the grace? Like, where's the grace for yourself?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I can see that because it's like at a certain point, staring at it doesn't change it. And it's the act of changing it is not always acknowledging it doesn't always change it. It's like, okay, this thing is happening. So how can we, either let it happen or move past it, but going to the root of it doesn't always. Yeah, I got what you're saying. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot. And, like I said earlier, I fought. I had so much resentment and like I fought therapy for a long time. Because I had some going back some internal things from high school of being forced to go to a therapist when I didn't want to. So then, as an adult, to have people who loved me tell me I should go, I was like, "What? What? How dare you try to force me? You're just trying to change me." And so I fought it for a long time. And now I'm one of the biggest proponent where I'm constantly like, "Yes, go, yes, go, yes, go." Really figure this stuff out, and it's yes, it's about being, bettering you.
Yes.
But if you're a type A who just needs to hear this part to make it worth it, it makes you such a better artist, such a better performer, such a better business person, because everything is connected. And so if you can really get into your own psychology and move to the place where you can consciously make these choices, it's so different. It's so different. It's like it's leveling up.
Yeah, I completely agree.
I love doing this podcast, but before I got into podcasting, storytelling was really my first love. It was the first thing I had the courage to get up and do on stage, and as a result, it always has a very, very special place in my heart. On November 2nd of this year, 2023, I released my debut album called Integration, and storytelling is really, really at the heart of it. It's only 30 minutes long. It's a really personal sort of tale about my journey through being an artist and being creative. So much of what I talk about here on the podcast. If you're able, if you're willing, I would be so grateful if you would just take the time to listen to it. And if you can, top to bottom once through, it's only 30 minutes. I think it's a beautiful story. I'm very, very proud of it, and I hope you love it. Thank you.
I'm curious. I don't mean to put you on the spot. Is there a particular area of your performing that you can identify as having benefited from therapy?
Sorry, I'm like the thing I'm thinking of is so fucking long, so I'm trying to think of a quicker one.
Long is okay.
Yes. Yes. I will say it was most apparent first in my stand-up,
Okay.
but it all translates, into burlesque, into clowning, into Twitch, because it's all about connecting with people.
Sure.
Really understanding that the fuck you, punk rock, all of that shit is just another wall and is just fear-based. And that true vulnerability is actual strength. That's next level. It's so much easier to say, I don't care what they think about me. I'm going to go up there and blah, 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 blah. And yeah, that can work. Especially, I believe in acknowledging and thanking the crutches we used along the way.
Yes.
If I didn't have the fuck you, I don't care if you like me. Nobody liked me when I was little anyways. I don't need you to like me. If I didn't have that, I would have never gotten on stage.
Right.
So I needed that crutch at the time. It was a tool that I used at the time.
Yes.
When I no longer needed it and was able to break down and analyze and see that that is based in fear, because if they see the real me, will I be rejected? Will I be abandoned? Will I be hated? And that going up there and being fully authentically me is the actual strength that I craved. That leveled everything up. And like I said, I saw it first in stand-up, because there's the aggression towards the audience, which some people like, but a lot of people, you're really just kind of pushing them away from you. And so then to be able to go up there and be myself and to see the body language of the audience, where they're open and they're accepting, and maybe you're not going to get as big of a lot of comics when they first start, they just want a reaction period. That's why you see so much of the edgelord stuff and so much, racism, sexism, all of the things, is because they fear silence. Yes. And so getting a ooh is at least a sound.
1,000%.
And so to then move into not trying to get any sort of response, but just be myself on stage, even if they didn't make sounds, their body language was welcoming.
Yeah.
They were accepting. They were ready to receive whatever I was giving them. So to go from that then to learn to be funny is the next step. But yeah, that was a lot to really learn. Because I mean, let's be honest, like if you're not ready to hear it, it sounds so fucking cheesy. If you're not in that space, when people say vulnerability is a true strength, you're like, fuck you. But when you're ready to hear it and actually accept it, it's like, yeah, it is.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, like, I think the other, again, for the type A folks out there who aren't quite ready to jump on the woo-woo bandwagon, I was there at some point. I totally get it. Like, I think people underestimate how much tension you can create through vulnerability that you can then break, which is what creates the best fucking laughs.
Absolutely.
Like when the only way you can create tension is by saying shit that makes everyone want to die. Like, yes, it's effective to a point, but at some point people are like, I don't want to die anymore. Can we not like walk up to the edge so many times?
Yeah, because you want to take them on a ride. Performance should be a journey.
Yes.
If you're up here the whole time, this loses meaning. It's just this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I actually, there's a visual I have very often about that concept. I forget where I read this. There was some fucking article. I don't know. But basically it was just talking about people's body language. And about, people that stand and walk like this, and there's like this protection thing versus your arms down. And something that's really interesting was like dictators, where they do the walk where they have their arms behind them while they're walking and just kind of strutting, well, it's not like this. It's like kind of like, this kind of walk.
Yeah.
Because they are surrounded by protection. They have all of their people with the guns. They have snipers and stuff all over them. They can walk around literally with their heart and chest exposed with no fear of being attacked. And that's just this like, it's just this expression of strength. I'm not worried about it. And so I think about that all the time when you get into the woo woo and like just the like my heart exposed. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. You can't hurt me. I'm not worried about it. Are they gonna laugh? Are they gonna like me? I believe in what I'm producing. I believe in what I'm saying. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah. I think that's so true. I think another thing I was gonna return to, you mentioned like the like fuck you, I do me attitude. And it's interesting because it feels like the alternative to that is like receiving all of that criticism, receiving all of that critique. And it's like, no, like I actually love myself so much that I can hold a space and like I can hear what you say and not feel it. I don't have to be porous. I don't have to absorb your negativity. Because again, as we reference, like most of the time it's about whatever they're going through.
Yeah.
It's about their shit.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm sure everybody's different, but for me personally, that's something that I fought for a long time. I struggled with self-confidence for so long. And it really came down to, I mean, that's a lot of things it came down to in this aspect that we're talking about.
Yes.
Part of it was, I really hate arrogance. I find it to be such a turnoff, personally, professionally, everything. And so when I see people who are not that great, think that they are God's gift to the stage, I'm like, how delusional are you? Do you not hear the sadness in the audience right now? This is not good. And so I so feared being that unaware person who just thinks I'm so fucking great that I overcorrected.
Yes. To
just never thinking I'm good enough. Ever, ever, ever. I actually, one of my best friends, she started as a fan of my shows and performances, and we had an open call for assistance, and so she applied and she came in, and I was like, oh, it's great, she's always in the front row, she knows how the show goes, she'll come, and she can assist. And I hated my performance that evening And so, we're finishing up and I'm packing and I'm like not in a good mood. And she came up and she was like, "You were so great." And I don't remember this. She tells me this, but I absolutely believe her. She's like, "You're so great." And I was like, "That's because you don't know what good is yet." She's such a bitch thing to say.
Nice.
So, but it's just, I couldn't think that I was good because I thought that thinking that you're good is how you never become great. And it's not true. It's not true at all. It's just, you have to have the ability to be self-aware. And it's the same thing. It's either extreme of just not being aware.
Right. Although now you make me want to ask the question, what do you think it takes to be great?
What do I think it takes to be great? I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that there's any answer to that, because everybody has a different answer. And what is great to me is not great to you. And I can watch somebody on stage and think they're great. Every time I go on stage, whether there's 20 people or 800 people, they're all going to have a different idea of whether or not I was great. And so I think the only thing I can do is try to figure out what that means to me, because there will never be a concrete answer across the board.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think I'm great right now. I think I am a great, I did a show, I have to tell you, I did this show on Friday night. I fucking killed. And it was so exciting. And I almost made an Instagram story about this, but I was driving, so I didn't. After years of feeling like I'm not good enough, it felt so amazing to say out loud to myself in my car, I fucking killed. And to truly feel it and believe it, oh, that feels good. It feels so good. That's it. I don't know what the answer is. I just know that I feel it now, but maybe somebody watched and thought she was okay. I don't know. Not my problem.
Not me, not mine. It's one of my favorite things to say to myself these days. Yeah. I think you're right. I think there's certainly not a universal answer. And frankly, one of the big things I always try to focus on with this podcast is not trying to say come here if you want the advice for how to do it. Cause there isn't one way. And what worked for you, what worked for me is not necessarily going to work for someone else. Again, all I'm trying to do is reflect the emotional experience of trying to take something creative and putting it out in the world and acknowledging that there are highs and lows. And at any given point as an artist, sometimes we experience the highs and we're like, I hope this never ends. Spoiler alert, it's going to. Yeah. Or the people who are in the lows, this is never going to end. It's spoiler alert, it will. And it's just to remind people, you're going to ride the wave.
Yeah. Yeah,
you're going to ride the wave.
You want to, though. I mean, you don't want to when it sucks. You're like, ugh. But
yes.
That's what we're here for. Like you said, it's the same thing as if it was always up here, that it would just be this.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you read or listened to Rick Rubin's new book, The Creative Act?
Oh my God, I love it so much.
Okay. I thought you were going to say no. And I was like, oh my God. It is so good. So I got the Audible version because he reads it himself. And it's just, I could just listen to it over and over. And every time I hear, even if I hear the same chapter, a different part, is speaking to me. It's so good. And that's a lot of what he talks about is just, it's all up here. It's all you. And yes, you are making things to put out into the world. And yes, we find a joy when somebody likes it, but it's all up here.
Yeah.
And like I said, with that friend, she loved it. She thought I did great that night. Meant nothing to me, really. It meant nothing to me that she thought I was great that night, because we are our harshest critics.
Yeah. There's also the really funny, weird dynamic there where you were, and you in this moment, us in all moments, you were a quarter step away from being like, oh my God, look how much joy I just created for this person. Like, look how lit up they are by what I just gave them. And instead we're like, nope, I have my checklist of how I fucked up and therefore the performance sucked. You are wrong. And it's like, why? Why? Like, it's so close to being so there to like receive and be like, oh, I'm so happy that you loved it, and to see their joy and to celebrate it. And we're like, no, fuck that. I'm going to hold on to my anger and my rage and my checklist. Fuck you.
But you know what? It's so the yin and yang thing, though, because, you know, I say that and it's, I mean what I just said, 100% true. You have to feel it in yourself. And also, I do this because I want to make people happy. I do this because I love bringing joy to the world. When people are smiling and laughing, I'm like, yes, this is what I want. So much is terrible. You know, so much is hard. To bring whimsy and joy and just a frivolous moment. I love creating that. You know, I used to say when people would ask me like, you know, what do you do? I'm like, it's so hard to be like, burlesque and comedy and circus, and I'm a producer, and I used to be a podcaster. It was like all these things. So I used to say I help people forget about their problems. For a long time, that was my answer. I'm now kind of moving into a new space of sometimes acknowledging stuff. For a long time, I didn't ever want to talk about politics. I didn't want to talk about, you know, like my addiction stuff. I didn't want to talk about serious things because I'm like, they're here to forget, and I'm here to forget too, honestly. Let's have fun together. And I'm now moving into a space of really talking about those subjects because they're the reality that we live in. So I don't say that anymore, but I'm kind of switching over to like, what is my dream? You know, and right now, my dream is to be a person who makes other people's dreams come true. And so it sounds so counter to literally everything I just fucking said. Because I'm like, no, I'm finally learning about, you know, focusing on myself. But my dream is still based in this thing. And so there's just like a yin and yang to it. And I don't really know what the healthy balance is between the two. I know I feel good right now, but maybe in a year I'll look back and be like, oh, I was so fucked up. I don't know.
I mean, like, yes, you will always have that experience because growth is lifelong. And so you, compared to 5 years ago, is a completely different, more evolved person. You now versus you 5 years from now in the future will be a much less evolved person than you will eventually become. And again, like, this is my work, so don't let me project, but like, I'm learning to love the fact that I'm supposed to fuck this up. I'm supposed to not be evolved, like, because I have to do this for my whole life. So so of course, like, shit's going to go wrong. Of course I'm going to fuck it up. Like, that's life. That's literally the whole thing we're doing here. So like, yep, I had an idea. I ran with it. I ran out of gas with it. I had to come up with a new idea. I went in, I found a new idea. I went and pursued that. I learned some shit. I met some cool people. Like, that's it. Like, that's the whole game.
What was it? I forget who was a drag queen. I don't know if it was Trixie. It was one of the RuPaul girls. And I hate that I can't remember who it was. But they were talking about like when you cringe at something that you did 2 or 5 years ago. And she was like, good. If you're not cringing at what you did last year, you haven't grown. You should be embarrassed of that. You should cringe. And I was like, oh, that's so good. Right. That's so good.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. I want to switch gears a little bit. You're about to launch a Kickstarter, which I know is something that a ton of artists think about, are curious about, because like funding and art have a very strange relationship. Much like there's so much art, there's so much cool stuff, and like getting the money from people to the art, always a challenge. So what's the Kickstarter? What's the show? Tell me all about it.
So it's that. So when I said about, you know, coming back and having like this big comeback for the circus, I had this vision. Literally, it was like I was meditating. This was like right before COVID. It's probably like around January, maybe December. I was meditating and I just out of nowhere had this like thing of, so like I said, my first act, burlesque act, was as a burlesque clown. I have since gone and done all kinds of burlesque acts, a lot of classic stuff, you know, the big feather fans, comedic stuff. My main thing that I do right now is I do stand-up burlesque. So I have, you know, like those Britney Spears mic, and I'm like doing the burlesque, the performance in the strip while telling jokes and crowd work with the audience and everything. So I've done lots of kinds of burlesque, but the clown was my first, and for a long time, just what I was known for. And so I had this thing of like, you know, I'm not sure how familiar you are with burlesque, but usually like the grand finale is the pasties at the end. You take off your bra, you're wearing pasties. Sometimes they're just, you know, pasties. Sometimes they're jokes in different shapes and things like that. But that's like, ta-da, you walk off stage. And I was like, saw this thing of like, instead of it being pasties the end, what if the curtain opens behind me? And I've done this whole thing as this clown, and it's very silly and jokey and funny, but sexy. And the curtain opens behind me, and there's a mechanical bull behind me, which is like an homage to like Dita Von Teese. Here's this mechanical bull burlesque act, like one of the most iconic acts in the world. But instead of a bull, it's a balloon dog. And I ride the balloon dog, and confetti showers over the audience while I'm just riding this dog. And I was like, I have to do it. Oh my God, I have to do this thing. And so I called my best friend right away. I'm like, guess what? And she was like, that's amazing. And so it just became this thing. I'm like, this is what we have to do. This is what we have to do. So then, like I said, COVID, all this stuff. I'm like, oh my God. Well, when we come back, that'll be our big comeback, is the debut of this act. And then I found out how much mechanical bulls are. They are very expensive.
Yeah.
They're very expensive. But I'm stupid, you see. I am financially irresponsible. So I bought one.
Yep, sure
Because
did.
what's credit, right?
Yeah.
So I've now spent the last 3 years creating this act. I completely redid. That was most of how I spent the COVID time, was making a new costume. I've completely redone it. It's just like next level Vegas showgirl clown costume that's just like almost entirely hand sewn by me. I got a mechanical bull, got it shipped to my place in Vegas, found a prop maker who could strip the bull part off and fabricate the dog part, carving foam and doing different stuff. And it's about to be done. It's been at the prop maker's studio for over a year now. Is how long this process has been to source this specific kind of foam and to carve it. And they also have to figure out, like, wait, if we attach it this way, no, it falls apart. Try a new way. So this is new for them too. This is an art project. They don't know. It's not a how-to. Right. So this has been a bit of thing for them too. So it's been over a year that it's been with them, and it is about to be done in the deadline, or not the deadline, but what they think it's going to be ready for is in about 2.5 weeks, where I will have a mechanical bull balloon dog, or we're calling it the mechanical balloon. And now I'm like, oh shit, I have to store this. I have to rehearse somewhere. I don't know. Do I have to rent a warehouse? Because it's huge. There's a lot of questions that I don't currently in this moment have the answer for, because it was the impulsive, no, this has to happen no matter what. And people like a year ago would be like, well, where are you going to keep it? I was like, I don't know. I didn't care. Now I have to care suddenly. And there's a lot of questions, and all the answers are money.
Yeah.
So what is happening is the debut is going to be mid-January. At the time of this recording, the date is not quite locked in, so I don't want to say, but it will be locked in by the time this airs. We're looking at the third week in January. Big debut event in Las Vegas. I'm going to do the burlesque circus, showgirls and clowns and jugglers and aerialists, and a whole giant event. And the finale is going to be the debut of the mechanical balloon dog. And so, yeah, the Kickstarter is for all of the above mentioned things. I need to get the venue rental. I need to figure out the storage, the rehearsal space, all of this stuff. I will be honest with you. I'm very nervous. This has all been self-funded. Everything I've ever done has been self-funded. I'm very much of, I will go, I will bartend, I will waitress, I do video editing. I'm one of those people who, like, I will have 10 jobs at once because it has to get done, and it has to. I don't know what else to tell you. I've taken out some very large personal loans. I'm like, whatever, money's not real, I'll deal with it later. And then later comes and I'm like, oh shit. In service of the art, it's whatever, I'll make it happen. And so for a long time, people would say, you should do a Kickstarter, you should do a Kickstarter. And I was like, no, I got this. I'll figure it out. The idea of asking people for help. And it's not even an arrogant thing. I know the reality of the world we live in. I know that there's a lot going on. And the idea of saying, do y'all want to help me with my balloon dog? I do feel a sense of shame in that. I'm like, that's so stupid. Why would I do that? People are hurting. How tone deaf to go and ask for help for a fucking balloon dog. I'll make it work. There's also another layer of embarrassment of, if I launch a Kickstarter and nobody donates, it's going to feel like a little kid that nobody came to their birthday party. So I do have that as well. But I've had so many people now, because I've been talking about it now for literally years and updating on my Instagram, oh, look, this is how much further we got. We figured out the motor. We did this, we did that. And so many people have said, please start a Kickstarter. I want to help. And so now that I'm in this place of like, oh, it's in front of me now, and I don't know what to do. I'm launching it, and we'll see what happens. Yeah. I don't know. I know the debut's got to happen. Like, the date's locked in.
Yep.
Are we gonna coast into that date because I got so much help and that's fine? Or am I going to be working, 120 hours a week because I got to make these payments? I don't know. We'll find out together. Stay tuned.
Oh my God. On the next episode of KiKi Maroon and her wild balloon dog adventures. That's amazing. Oh my God. KiKi, this was wonderful. Thank you for sharing your story about your shows, about your process. It's been so wonderful. And if you are listening, please go check out the Kickstarter. It may be closed at the time this airs. If it's not, obviously I encourage you to contribute. And if nothing else, get your ass to Vegas in January and go see the show.
Absolutely. Or find me on Instagram. That's where I'm the most active, is on Instagram, because, once it's launched, who knows? Is that going to be the start of a tour? Am I going to take it other places? I don't know, but you might see it live in person, coming to a city near you.
Awesome. Beautiful. Thank you again. I appreciate you, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. It is genuinely my pleasure, my joy to share these conversations with you. If you are able, if you are willing, please leave a review, hopefully a good one, on whatever platform it is that you're enjoying these conversations. It really helps us with visibility and having these stories be told to a wider and wider audience. There are many, many ways you can connect with us. The best one, just reach out to stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. You can recommend a guest, you can give us feedback, you can send us memes, whatever would make you happy. Thank you again for being here. My name is Jack Dawkins, and we'll see you again soon.